Hi Shivam, how are you?
Hello,
Good
hi
evening.
Komal. Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm also doing great. Just
That's amazing. I hope I did not ruin any of your weekend plans.
no, not at all.
Wonderful. Uh,
Yeah.
ठीक है, we can start. I think I'll just start by introducing you.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, okay. So Shivam here. I have been personally following him for quite a few months now. I started from Instagram, then I found his LinkedIn. It was wonderful actually. So Shivam is the author of two self-help books, How to Unleash Your True Potential and Finding the Magic in You. And he is a certified emotional intelligence life coach. He has personally coached hundreds of people across the world towards being emotional. And as I personally see, he's doing a wonderful job with Instagram
Thank you so much.
as well as his other socials as well. Shivam, would you like to just, introduce yourself in a minute or so?
I think you did a good job introducing that.
Okay.
That is more about it. Yeah, but again, as we go ahead in the session, we can talk and discuss about other parts of the journey as well, of course. But yeah, I think that's a crunch of it, the crux of it, of helping people understand their emotions better, of helping them understand their patterns, their brains, their beliefs, their behaviors better.
Right. So since we are focusing on Men's International Day, which is tomorrow for this particular live, my first question actually would be related to that itself. These days, a lot of support groups and everything is coming up, right? So what do you think about support groups just for men, to share their thoughts, feelings, just catch up?
It's good. It's a good idea to do so, but again, it depends on the flexibility and the openness of that group as well.
Absolutely.
Generally, if you have a particular support group where you are able to talk about your feelings, talk about your emotions, that means the people in the support group should have that particular sort of understanding, emotional state, or awareness for that matter as well, to be able to talk about the things, to be able to take those things, and to have that non-judgmental space as well. So that's a great idea, but again, depends on the community and the people that are in the particular group as well. Otherwise, it can just become a gossip session as well. So we do not want that. We just want to have it more productive.
Yeah, so I think a male moderator who's like, good with all this would do a wonderful job leading such support groups,
Yeah.
right? Okay, my second question is actually a little bit different. So, you know how even in friend groups or so, the way men and women support each other emotionally is very different. Even especially in Indian context, if I speak, our tone of language, the words that, if say suppose a female friend group were to comfort another female friend, if they have got a male support, or males were supposed to, support one of their guys, break up maybe after, uh, I don't know, they're grieving over someone's death. And the level of vulnerability is so different in both genders and in both groups when we see it. Why do you think such a difference exists?
I think the it starts all from the childhood, the way we have been conditioned. Men and women are conditioned very, very differently, and it shows up in the behavior as well. I mean, if you look at every particular family, the way women are raised and the way boys are raised are poles apart. When you talk to women about certain things, there's a different way of understanding things, perceiving things. We talk to boys about the same thing. There's a different way of understanding and perceiving things. Again, not just from that particular front. There's a lot of difference biologically as well, which you cannot just dismiss either. And that's one of the most important things as well. That there's a huge biological evolutionary difference as well. So we cannot expect them to be the same. They are two different genders with two different important pointers to add up, and both of them have some important value combined to it. So our goal should not be to make it similar. So we should not
Okay.
try to think that okay, men should have the similar kind of emotional response system or reaction system just like women do. It is serving a great purpose, but yes, it should come with understanding of it, awareness of it, rather than more of a dismissive thing. Because in most of the cases, what we generally say is that men have a men are not so emotionally aware as like women are generally as well. I mean, men are
Right.
dismissive of their emotions. Men are not so careful and not so conscious of what they're feeling, what they're not feeling. And since that happens a lot, it ends up piling up, it ends up kind of bottling up, and then most of it just comes out in terms of anger and resentment and pride as well. So most of the men end up just feeling or expressing anger. rather than so many other emotions that they could potentially feel and observe and even express for that matter. Women, on the other hand, they're more aware in certain factors, so they're able to talk about certain things. The difference starts, like I mentioned, in the childhood, and that is where if you want to change the whole hierarchy of it, if you want to change the whole process of it, the change should start from the very grassroots level. It cannot happen now if you assume and expect that if I'm talking to a 25-year or 30-year-old man and I would want that person to react, observe, and see things the way you do or the way I do, it would be very impossible to do so. So
That's
building
right.
some unrealistic expectations will only add up more difficulty. But yes, changes do happen. But for that, you will have to give a lot of time. You have to be patient towards it, and also a lot of trust as well. Because most of the men have become the way they are today because of the way society has conditioned them to think in certain way that you do not have the liberty to feel, because if you feel, it will lead to these things. You don't have the time to feel those things. You have to be strong, you have to be this, you have to be that, so automatically that builds up the pressure. So even if you cry, there are 10 other people who are going to tell you that this is wrong. You cannot cry like a baby, you cannot cry like a woman for that matter. People say that, and that's what they end up kind of piling it inside them. So I think the change will start from every person that you're being around. Maybe with, be it your partner, be it your son, be it your brother, whatever that is. But yeah, I think we have to give them that trustworthy space. We have to allow them to change one step at a time rather than expecting that overnight change either. Because one of the things, most difficult things that often happen in relationships is that the moment people come into relationship, they see that void change. Initially, it's all good and nice when honeymoon phase is going on. It's all good and nice that, okay, we're excited, we are attracted, we are doing a lot of things. So we're engaged with each other. The moment that honeymoon phase gets over, automatically this difference kind of becomes very huge and heavy. But this difference was already there. We just could not see that particular thing. So understanding and expecting that this difference should go away in a day or two or in a week or two is a very unrealistic from anyone's side. And
Yeah.
added to the fact, a lot of times women tend to react to certain things more aggressively or defensively in those cases.
Mm-hmm.
That why are you not thinking this way? Why are you not acting this way? Why are you not feeling this way? Which adds to the pressure of not being able to trust them. So the gap actually increases and increases. So I think trust and time is one of two of the most important things that women or any other person can do to be able to help them to feel those things and to be able to work around those areas.
That is true. So I picked up a lot from your answer, but I have two follow-up questions. I'll start with, so like you said, the approach has to be very different for men and women, right? So you as a coach, or people in psychology as well, right? Like even for us, aspiring psychologists or psychologists who are already practicing, what do you think is important to learn when we are counseling, say, a man and a woman, right? Because you said it is very, there has to be a difference. It cannot be that I speak to a woman the same way and a man the same way and they understand me the same way as well, right? Because I feel like there also comes a difference when the person sitting in front of you, the expert sitting in front of you, uh, whether he is a male or it's a she, right? Because again, how, at what level are you relating to them?
Of course.
At what level you think they understand you or they actually get what it feels to be in a shoe.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you think the approach has to be different and what is important for us to learn, even as professionals or even as just, not professionals in this field,
Right.
but just people interacting?
Yeah, I think it only starts with awareness. And the moment you become aware of that particular difference, change happens automatically. It's a very simple thing. Like the way you're talking to a child is very different from the way you're talking to an adult. You don't have to practice for that particular thing, right? You just do that automatically because you know the difference. The same way, if you are aware of the difference internally about the man between a man and a woman, naturally your reaction, your way of communication, the way of dealing with them will automatically change. But most of us are not aware of the difference. That's the biggest problem here. Because most of us have this internal thing that if I'm thinking this way, maybe they might be thinking this way as well. And that's natural. I mean, we cannot make it zero, the difference, because naturally there's a whole world inside it. I mean, we cannot, the more we study, the more we have to know about it. But yes, the more we start to understand and be aware about the differences, it makes it easier to communicate and converse about that particular thing. So I think the inner work has to be done first, about you knowing the difference first, to be able to take it out in that particular manner.
Right. So yes, back to my second follow-up question. In your experience, professional, personal, what role does a man's emotional health and well-being play when it comes to affecting external factors, be it relationships, like relationships you already mentioned, right? But be it workplace, relationships, just personal life, professional life, growing up, or even, dealing with day-to-day crisis. How important is it for a man to keep his emotions in check? Because women understand to a certain extent, right? They are ruled by their emotions, but men are not. That is something they need to bring into their conscious.
No, not really. I would not really agree to that particular statement. Men are
Okay.
also ruled by their emotions. It is just that they're not so aware about it. See, interestingly, if you think about it, women are as much equally emotional as men are.
Hmm.
It is the whole difference that men have learned this ability to kind of pile them up, and it comes out only in few forms. For example, a matter of fact, I have been constantly told that I have to be like a man. So what will I rather do? How to be like a man? I would buy some fancy cars, I'll buy some fancy suits, I'll go to the gym, I'll build my body up, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll have this, I'll have that. What is it exactly about? I'm trying to be masculine because somewhere I have always associated this as my worth. So if I'm masculine enough in that context of society, I'll feel good about myself. Why do I want to be masculine enough? The societal definition of masculinity, for that matter, because that's what will attach my worth to it. So naturally, somewhere I have completely attached the entire thing of my pride, of my identity to this particular context. Now, at any particular cost, if something like that is not exactly happening according to that definition, I will feel angry because of it, because my whole identity is kind of getting crushed because of it. And that's one of the biggest reasons we see road rages. How many times you see a woman participating in a road rage? Very few compared to the men,
That's true.
right? Because men participate in road rages, they participate in fights, they participate in that anger outburst. I mean, even if you drink and a lot of abuses happen, so many things happen. Of course, abuses happen both ways, but in terms of context on a percentage wise as well, it often happens from the men's angle. Why so? Because the whole anger thing and the act of being a man kind of takes a toll onto them. So all the things, all the primary emotions they choose to ignore, which comes out in the form of secondary emotions such as anger or pride or these particular things. So it all comes out eventually. We might feel that okay, women are expressing their emotions, that's why they're the more emotional. So men are not expressing their emotions so well and they're being rational, so they're less emotional. It's not like that. Of course, that is very true that yes, men can actually act upon certain level of rationality on certain things based comparative to women on a particular day, depending on the hormonal changes and other things that happen naturally. That's again biological. But generally, men do feel the same amount of emotions as women do. And express, yes, they do not express because they have been told not to do that particular thing. So the whole process is different. The whole process is actually the same for both of the genders. It is just the way we have been conditioned to think about it, feel about it, or understand about it that changes.
Hmm. I understand, and I totally agree to the fact that society has shaped us in a
Hmm.
way since our childhoods, not just about emotions but about everything, right? Like
Yes.
we've heard, we've heard a lot of things, color,
Hmm.
and okay, so you're a boy, you have to have blue things.
Hmm.
You start recognizing, oh,
Hmm.
the baby was wearing pink, so it might be a girl.
Yeah, yeah.
I totally agree to the fact. I have an interesting question.
Hmm.
Like right now,
Hmm.
up until now, most men, like majority of men, are the ones whose emotional expression comes out in anger, comes out in different forms, as compared to, like, showing that they're upset, showing that they feel other emotions, like maybe crying over
Hmm.
someone's death, grief,
Hmm.
all
Yeah.
of that. How well do you think men becoming more emotionally aware and more emotionally expressive would work out in this fast-paced world today? Like with everything becoming online, everything becoming just so fast that I'm watching a 5-second reel, I don't have the patience, uh,
Hmm.
right? But
Hmm.
just in terms of even leadership or everything in totality, because
Hmm.
we see men everywhere, leading, following, doing everything, but most of them are not as expressive. How do you
True.
think it would change if, say, suppose in a reverse world where men were more emotionally expressive, um, and more open to being vulnerable with whatever they were feeling?
A lot will change. I mean, it would be a beautiful world to be in for that matter. But yeah, the whole point is that it will definitely change a lot. I mean, even if we talk about personally, if we take an independent entity for that matter, uh, it will change the way they approach things. It will change the way they deal with things. It will change the way they handle things, and the way relationships also flourish. Why so? Because if I'm in terms and if I'm in acceptance of my emotions, understanding my emotions and dealing with them in the right way, I would not have to find other escapes to get out of that particular emotional state. That means if I'm feeling upset about certain things, I have been told right from the start that I do not have the right to be upset. Why I do not have the right to upset? Because you have better things to do in life. You have to earn money, so you have to study hard. You have to earn money, so you have to look for a job. You don't have the time to be upset. That's what we have been told right from the start, right? That you don't have the right to be upset. You don't have the right to cry. You don't have the right to feel sad about or feel low about something. So we have to buckle up, be a man. That's what we have always been told. So the moment it says that, you kind of ignore all those emotions. Still, I'm feeling sad. The sadder I feel, the more I would want to use that particular resort of anger, because now we have kind of associated anger as a manly emotion. So I would be comfortable expressing that anger because that's a manly thing to do. I would be comfortable throwing bricks at people because that's what makes me a man. I would be comfortable punching people out because that's what makes me a man. I would not have any a single level of doubt about that particular thing. But I would not feel comfortable crying about my things because that doesn't make me a man. So no, that's the whole difference. The moment a person is aware, they'll find better coping mechanisms to deal with their emotions. And naturally, the relationships, the professional life will be more sorted and will be more balanced approach rather than running after certain things. And that holds true for both men and women for that matter. For example, if I'm not, for both men and women for that matter, let's say that if someone is having a very difficult time and they're not able to deal with their emotions, a lot of things are happening in their life, you might notice that our tendency to order things online increases automatically, right? So we find coping mechanisms. I'll order more from Zomato, I'll order more from Amazon, I'll order more from Myntra, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Why so? Because I'm trying to hold on to things. I'm trying to find control into my life through certain ways. And that's what men have been doing all the time through that masculinity image of, okay, I have to be masculine enough. And they keep running this particular chase. But the question that you asked, that in this fast-paced world, it's difficult. It's really, really difficult. Why so? Because we don't have the time to even think about what we are feeling. I feel something difficult, I feel something unpleasant. My brain knows what can make me feel better. I'll scroll the Instagram for 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour, but I'll feel better, at least for the particular moment of time. So I don't have the time to think for myself, understand for myself, and work on the feeling of my emotions. And that is where the whole inner work is very, very important as well. The thing that therapists, coaches, or counselors, or whatever, I mean, the whole concept of working on yourself does play a very, very important role because it transitions and changes your life. It changes the way you look at things. It changes the way you approach your relationship. It changes the way you look at your work as well. It changes and whole drastically shifts the whole narrative from running after things to just waiting still and analyzing and managing things. So that is a very, very important factor for sure.
Right. So you did say that it is difficult for men, right?
Mhm.
So when it comes to you coaching, or you just teaching someone about emotional intelligence, or approaching in a certain way,
Mhm.
have you noticed a stark difference between the emotional intelligence or emotional quotient of women as compared to men?
100%. There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference in the terms that the very first thing that women would be much more comfortable talking about what she's feeling and to the extent of what is bothering her, and the difference in the term of man that they would not want to, even if they're facing something, they would want to cover up with a random story to just make up for the fact that I'm feeling this particular thing. For example, if I'm telling you that I'm feeling sad, I'll try to rationalize it as well. Look, I'm feeling sad because this is because somewhere I feel that, okay, feeling sad is not a manly thing to do. So I would want to just run away from that. I'll try to bring rationality into the process as well. Women, on the other hand, are comfortable. Okay, I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling guilty. They will be much more comfortable opening up to that particular thing. So that again, the whole societal norms come into picture here. Because men have been told that you don't have a right to feel that. When it's not just told, we have seen. We see our parents. We have seen our parents growing up. That's what my mom did. That's what my dad did. We learned the roles. So it will change. I mean, ideally, if you think about it, changes happen very slowly in the whole societal system as well.
Right.
So the changes that we're trying to build right now might take at least 2 or 3 generations to be implemented in the right manner. It won't happen overnight or even the next 20, 30 years either.
That,
But yes, some changes are important.
I understand. I had another question. I asked a similar question before where I said the difference between expressing and comforting between a male friend group and a female friend group, right? Uh, but say, suppose if I put a woman in front of someone who's being vulnerable and a man in front of who's being vulnerable, their responses and reactions to it is very different. Like even if I take my own example,
Mm-hmm.
um, in a friend group, I'm more of a chill, laid back kind of a person, right? Like I'm not, I don't show a lot of emotions when I'm in a friend group every single day. Uh, and when it comes to it, I do that. But if someone were to it, no one has really taught us how to react or comfort someone else. But I feel like men face a lot more difficulty when it comes to that. Like I personally have never usually seen a man knowing exactly how to respond when someone else is crying in front of them, or when someone else is looking for comfort
Yeah.
or all of that. It's always like, oh, I have a shoulder to cry on. Why? Because the shoulder is big. So I just when I keep my head on it, it's comforting. That's all. It's never the man's words
Yeah.
or something that they have done. What is your perspective on that?
Yeah. That is true because see, you can only process the emotions externally, which emotions you're comfortable dealing with it personally as well.
Hmm.
So a man who is still not able to express and process their own difficult or unpleasant emotions, how will they be able to understand and process your difficult emotions? So
Right.
if I'm feeling sad, what I do, I process it. It is not a process. I let it pile up and I take it out through anger. I'm not processing
Hmm.
it either. So that's mean I don't have the right capacity or the understanding to do that particular thing. But I think that is where the whole good role model kind of comes into picture. So if I have a woman in my life who is supporting of that, who's understanding of this particular thing, and still teaches me, still helps me to understand, process, and doesn't react in a judgmental way about that particular emotion. I'm feeling sad about something, and she gives me that good, trustworthy space to be able to talk about it. The change won't happen in a day. I won't learn in a day that okay, I have that space. But maybe after 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 1 week, 1 year, 2 years, I realize that okay, she won't judge me. So somewhere I will start to feel comfortable in talking about my emotions. And I will not feel judged because of it. Because currently, the first phase, if I had to talk about my sadness, I would completely understand that okay, I'm going to be judged. She's going to feel what kind of a man I am if I'm talking about my sadness, if I'm going to talk about my issues. So that's a big dire difference, and that's where the role of good role model comes into picture, and that is where the whole women picture comes into thing. That if you have a good supportive partner, friend circle, family into the picture, they can they can give you that space to be able to feel yourself without feeling that sense of judgment or without feeling the sense of any sort of negative remark either.
No. I understand. That totally makes sense actually because it is true, right? Like if I don't have the capacity to understand my own emotions,
Mhm.
obviously I'm not going to understand if someone else is coming and
Yeah,
talking to me about
yeah,
it.
yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, so a little bit of a personal question, but how much have people, been keen to listen to you as a man because you're an emotional coach, right? And that is even psychology as a profession sort of has seen, we
Fun.
majorly see women in it,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So how much have you been accepted when it comes to you going and coaching people, or you just introducing yourself that, oh, I'm an emotional coach? Because I totally understand how it might be a little difficult for you too, even though you know how to manage your emotions. But there is a sort of wall, right? That
It is.
this is how people are looking at me. So how has it been for you, uh, being an emotional coach? I'm sure there are
Mhm.
always some people in the audience who are like, just there to make you feel bad about what you're doing, or just
Mhm.
yeah. So I just wanted to
Mhm.
know how it has been for you,
Right.
and how much have people, reciprocated to your work.
Luckily, I mean, luckily, I will say luckily, and also in the fact that it has never been happened in that particular order, the way you're saying. Maybe it might have. I do not exactly see about that particular thing, but primarily because of the fact that I don't care about it. I am in this particular field because of a reason, and the way it doesn't impact me at all. So maybe even if it comes, I don't maybe look at it or don't care about that particular thing. Even if I go in a crowd, it kind of is taken very nicely and very positively. So it has maybe I've not seen that particular side of the lens yet, But I think it won't matter to me as much as because I have completely transitioned my field to come into this particular field, so I know exactly what I'm doing. For that, I'm very confident in what I'm doing in terms of I feel okay. This is what it is I'm doing. I was used to be an aerospace engineer. I used to be an
Okay.
assistant professor. I used to be a scientist in engineering. I used to teach people. I used to be a professor in college, and then I made the switch. So I am pretty certain about this particular thing. So I think even if that particular thing comes up, as of now, I have not. I do receive certain messages once in a while, but not in a big sense. But even if it does, I don't think it wouldn't matter too much to me.
Might I ask, like, that's a huge shift coming from
Yeah.
aerospace engineering and the entire science background to becoming an emotional coach.
Mhm.
Like, what made that happen?
The interest in science. I'm a huge science
Okay.
person, so I like to make everything scientific. So I am driven, I'm very curious as a person, and I like to know about things, what happens, why it happens, and how it happens. So I
Okay.
loved physics growing up. I became an aerospace engineer for a reason. I did my PhD in aerospace engineering. So all the things happened in that particular order. And I was very curious, क्यों होता है, कैसे होता है, क्या होता है? And that curiosity somewhere also got driven into human behavior and our own body, our own brain, our own emotions. The more I read about it, the more curious it became. And somewhere there came a point in my life where I realized that most of the people suffer because of lack of understanding of their own self.
That is very true.
Because लोगों को पता ही नहीं है कि हो क्या रहा है दिमाग के अंदर. They have no idea about exactly what is happening in the brain, why they are feeling, what they are feeling, why they are not feeling. So that brings in a lot of misery and a lot of confusion. So my original goal was to bridge that gap. That is where I started with writing books. Once the books got popular, then started a lot of other avenues as well. You got into public speaking and then got invited as guest lecturers, and then eventually the whole thing happened. I never planned for this thing to happen, but the whole shift happened because opportunities started coming my way, and eventually decided that I had to choose either of the two things. And then this was much more connected to my heart, much more connected to my value system. I love teaching, so I thought I should give it a shot.
I'm not that much into the field yet, but I will relate to you.
Hmm.
2 years back, when I joined psychology as a course, I was a
Hmm.
PCM student, like full
Okay.
physics, math person.
Hmm.
I was applying to become a pilot, and this shift
Okay.
happened because of COVID and like other reasons. And it was really
Hmm.
weird to even tell my friends because they always knew me as the science person, that physics, I give me sums in the middle of the night, I will do it and all of that. But I get you, it's sort of a calling that just comes from within, that yeah, I'm in the right place and I'm here for a reason.
Yeah, yeah.
I totally get you. Um, okay, can you, for the last question, we'll wrap it up quickly. I know for the fact from my own personal experiences, the importance of opposite gender friendships, even when it comes to, understanding emotions more, understanding yourself more. Uh, so like having male best friends, female best friends, opposite sex friends, right? So what is your take on that?
It
Does
does help a lot.
it helps a lot,
It
right?
does help a
Yes.
lot because it brings in a different set of thinking patterns into your life, that okay, this is something that can be dealt in a different way altogether. So if you have all
Right.
male friends, and let's say I have all male friends, I would be thinking in just one direction, which is not wrong, I'm saying,
Yes.
but it's just one direction. The moment a different gender comes into the picture, you see a different picture altogether. You see a different way of looking at the entire thing. Okay, this can be seen in this way as well. And then the whole process of you exploring your mind, you exploring your patterns, you exploring the different avenues also opens up. So I think it's a beautiful thing to have. It's just that the moment we need to be very conscious of this clarity and the picture when things kind of get complicated once in a while, and that's okay, and it's a part of the whole life thing as well. But yeah, once you're very clear that okay, so this is so much learning I'm getting out of it, it's worth that risk as well.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I totally understand the impact of a female friendship with a male friendship, but how do you think, having a male best friend changes or impacts uh, a
A
female?
woman,
Yeah,
right?
like the opposite.
Again, in a very beautiful way as well, in terms of clarity in the way things are being handled in terms of rationality. See,
Right.
women are very well emotionally expressive, very well emotionally aware. Men, on the other hand, have a good way of understanding and rationalizing things, right?
Right.
So the moment those two things add up, it kind of brings up a great combo because you're
Yes.
able to understand your emotions as well. You're able to then add up, okay, where to stop and where to actually bring in the part of seeing it in different lenses the same way, understanding and seeing things very differently. There's beauty in certain things. For example, the small things. When a man is not able to pick up small things, well, a woman is able to pick up small things. The similar way, another way as well. A woman is able to pick up small things. A man is not able to pick up small things. So when two people come together, two different genders come together, they bring in their own set of understanding, thought process, even interest levels as well, which makes you grow as a person. So it's always a great idea to surround yourself with people who are different than you.
Absolutely. This was actually a wonderful conversation, not gonna lie. Very insightful, very relatable, and I'm sure if you're watching, it added a lot of value because we were not just like, especially with your responses, you were not just, you had backup for everything, right? Like there are reasons we are different. We cannot come at the same level, and that is right too. I feel like it's a very big myth, even when feminism had come up, it was a very big myth that both of us need to be on the equal planes. I just feel like, in my opinion, equality doesn't mean that you do the same things the same way. You do things in your own way and you just balance it out, right? Because there are some things that I'm not going to be able to do that I will need your help with.
Absolutely.
If I were to do the same things that you're doing, then we're not adding any value to each other's life just by being in it, right?
Yeah.
So wonderful conversation. Is there anything else you would like to add, Shivam?
No, I think we covered up a lot of different avenues, but yeah, it was a lovely conversation. We had a great questions, and I think we talked really wonderfully about certain things. It was really my pleasure as well to be here.
Thank you so much for joining in, though. I was actually so happy that you responded that quickly, and I was like, yeah, because it was very last minute, right? Like it was very last minute, and we were not going to do this, but we were like, come on, it's going to, Men's International Day is going to come next year again. That is too long to wait. But it was absolutely wonderful having you. I was looking forward to this live. Thank you
for
very
having
much.
me.
Hoping for more collaboration in the future, more such insightful conversations, discussions.
Certainly. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who is watching. I hope you all liked the live, the question answers. It was beautiful the way he was answering and everything. Thank you very much, Shivam, again. We will end the live now. Thank you for your time and everything. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.